Hello, friends, and welcome to the Weekend Catch-Up Club, the coffee morning show brought to you live every Saturday, direct to Facebook and Twitch, and available later on demand at youtube.com/gamertagged and podcast services. Today's special guest is somebody I am really excited to pick their brains over. It is artist and illustrator Sean Anderson, aka Skyscraper Art. My friend, how are you? And welcome to the show.
I'm good. How are you doing? So
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Well, as we had a little conversation just before we started, still waiting on vaccinations and everything like that, but we're getting there. We're going to be able to go out and go to cafes and stuff again at some point. So I'm just hoping. I'm fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, what I'm excited about is Comic-Cons are coming back the second half of the year.
Yeah, I completely forgot about like the whole convention scene as well, man. So do you go to like lots of conventions?
I show it like we go through a circuit, like me and a group of artists. We all see each other at the same shows all across the country, the US. And that pandemic was devastating for that. It was the worst. I remember it happened Emerald City. We were 1 week away from it when the pandemic hit Seattle, and I wish it just waited one more week. And because that was a lot, that was a huge show, and it just got canceled, and that's when the dominoes started falling. And man, I've been waiting for it to come back.
Well, it must have been incredibly rough. So for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, can you please introduce yourself, and then we're going to be talking about your freaking insanely awesome artwork.
Thank you. My name is Sean Anderson. I'm from Maryland, United States, Germantown, Maryland, near about 40 minutes from DC. I do digital art, but I also color, paint, markers, spray paint, do the whole bit. But I think my main focus is usually digital. I sell art prints. Like I said, I do the convention scene around the US, go from convention selling art. I also do a few covers for some comic books. I have done some for TMNT, The Last Ronin, and I have another variant coming out soon for something Ate the Children, the Boom series.
Yeah.
So I have a few things rolling, probably a few more future, and usually I just take commissions. And I'm also by day I'm also an art director for an ad firm, so it's where I got a lot of the graphics.
So a lot going on then.
Yeah.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
So your art is incredibly unique, and this episode is going to be a little bit different from our usual one. It's going to be hopefully very, very visual, because I've got your Instagram page queued up to show our audience as well, because I really want to dive into your influences. You're obviously, you have a very unique style that is uniquely you, and it is stunning. If I have to be honest, it looks like it has a bit of an Asian influence to it, but I obviously don't want to presume anything.
Yeah.
But it's a way in which you illustrate these characters, whether it be like DC superheroes, Justice League, or the Marvel characters, in such an interesting way that I genuinely haven't really seen before. And that comes down to your style. So when did you first start developing this style, and how did it come about before it became like the thing that you do?
Yeah, it's an evolution. I mean, of just 20 years of like making stuff. But I guess in 2010, I decided to make my own graphic novel. I was going on my honeymoon, and I picked up a how to create like graphic novels for dummies book. And I was like, I have an art background. I was graduated in Maryland in 2001 with a degree in art, and I had you in your 20s, you just dabble here and there. But when I decided to make a graphic novel, I just did it. I went ahead and made it, and it was the hardest thing I ever did, but it taught me a lot. I took it to my first convention to sell in Baltimore around 2011, and it flopped. But I saw everyone around me selling art prints, and I was like, well, I had a collage-like style, and I was like, what if I applied this to superheroes and stuff? And I guess that's when I started the convention scene, and that got me making art all the time. And when you're on a roll, and just keep making, that's where you really develop the style. As my favorite art book, I forgot what it's called. It's not, I guess, not that favorite, but it's Steal Like an Artist. It's basically everything that you see, everything that influences you. I think at the time I was really into, I'm really into like Japanese digital art, and the Art Nouveau they take from there and just up it by 20.
Yeah.
So that influenced me, and I just developed this style, like all the little elements of a lot of Art Nouveau elements, Art Deco stuff, and just kind of implemented it. And at some point, I was making my prints, and every week you try to put out something. And I remember my wife telling me once, "This looks too much like a photograph," and I
too believable, too realistic.
Yeah, and I took that as the biggest insult, like in the world, believe it or not. And I was like, okay, I don't want her to say that again. So instead of going in the direction of making gritty, somewhat realistic art, I want to make it more fantastical, more designy, implement patterns and everything I see. Like if I see a pattern I like, make a mental picture, try to put a character in it and build around it. And I tend to do. I once thought of making a book called Flower Swirls and Glowing Balls, because those are like my favorite things I like to put in my stuff. Because they're just, I've always had an affinity for those elements, because I don't know. You know what? They just look cool. Yeah. And that's what I like.
Well, that's super interesting that you say that, because in design in general, not just illustration, but in design, product design, design elements, the design industry, it's always drawn from nature. And whether it be spirals, whether it be the tree knots of a tree trunk, leaf patterns, flower patterns, we always tend to draw from nature because it has that organic, symmetrical sometimes feel to it that just works. We get geometric shapes from nature. And so it's super interesting that you lean heavily on that, and the result that you manage to curate and craft and develop to be your own style, you can see where it kind of comes from. And it's interesting that it's not widely adopted, because I guess maybe people just don't assume that Batman should have floral patterns as part of his artwork or something, right? Because it's always gritty and dark. But for some reason, it works, and it's incredibly striking and unique for the way that you do it.
I like to think that I like using superheroes because they're the real answer is people recognize it, and that's what they latch onto. You just get a better response overall, and you can sell it. But the thing is sometimes I have the character lead what I do, but a lot of times I just have an art idea in mind, and I'm like cycling through my head which character would fit this. Mm-hmm. So that's, and another thing I never do is I never look at comic book art to influence me. Right. I remember back in college, when I was going through art school, I took a break from comic books and really got into fine art. Just, as this world just opens up, you go to the library and like pick out art books, and I think that break really helped because I went as a fine art painter and came out of it eventually when I made that graphic novel and found an audience to sell art to. That's where I kind of molded everything in. 10 years later after that. So,
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm coming from that.
It's wild. Who are the artists that have kind of really influenced you? Because you mentioned at the beginning there about like Japanese style of art, of the way that they kind of ramp everything up. Do you have any like major influences that have really latched onto?
My biggest influence is this digital artist named Ayakato. I haven't seen her work in like 10 years, but I just picked up one of those high fructose or digital, those weird magazines you find at Tower Records back in the day, and found her art, and that is probably my number one influence. That's an artist I look at. Let me adjust this before I make any art, just so I can like pick things up. And James Jean's also another artist I love. He did Fable covers for the longest time. Remember the comic book Fables? He did those beautiful covers, and I love his just art outside of that, like his gallery work and just what he's willing to do. Like he feels like someone who goes off of his first instinct and just rides it through. And I always feel like if you can do that, it's an incredible ride because, I always have an idea in mind, but, there's so much experimentation while making this stuff. And it's always fun to see what comes out on the other end.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's the same with because my main profession is design, graphic design, and a lot of the time is if you have the luxury to do it, is experimentation of just trying things out and see what's going to stick, and see what's going to start come together from that blank piece of paper, which can sometimes be the head scratching start for quite a long time when nothing is kind of coming to you. But then you just start experimenting with stuff, and then something hopefully comes together, and then before you know it, something is coming together and it's beginning to work, and you keep evolving it and keep iterating on it, and seeing what that end product is just incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, there's that point in the middle of making something where you start to see the elements just pop together and fit into place, and then that's when you get really excited and like lost in it.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about some of your profile stuff?
Yeah,
so I'm gonna pan the screen over there. So I've got your epic Instagram feed up on screen here, and so the most recent one that you posted was for X23, the Wolverine, and this is so striking and so impressive. How did that come about? That idea for the way to depict the Wolverine?
I saw it. Like I said, this is one where I saw an old 80s fashion Vogue cover or something of just like this like pale woman against a yellow background with shapes.
Yeah.
So I started going in my mind, what character could fit this that I can like play with? And I tend to like the female characters more because you can dress them up. Male characters usually have suits. Like when you make them, everyone's into this X-Men Hellfire Gala thing,
right?
And honestly, I was like, well, it's cool and all, but I was like doing that last year or 2 years ago, and I was like, oh man, what can I do that kind of go outside of that? Do Hellfire Gala, but without having that white background, and just do my own spin. So I guess X23, I chose her because I wanted Wolverine, but I wanted Wolverine girl. And and it has my usual elements of the if you see her little mask, there's little designy stuff here and there.
Mhm.
But what it really made it for me is I had the hair on one side, and I was like, what if I just like took that same hair and showed the other side of her left side, instead of and I don't know, it just worked to make it look crazy, and that's why I wanted it like to look crazy but simple.
Yeah, yeah. I love how you've taken the classic like Wolverine hair, which comes up like horns, but you've made that more of a mask for X-23. And it's maybe not coming across on the screen for viewers, but it's more of this kind of like almost doily pattern to the mask. Is very, very cool and just very, very interesting.
Yeah, it was a paisley that I like lightened up, like remember those old shirts that had those weird amoebas on it?
Yeah.
I just lightened it up, and I wanted to distinguish it from the hair, so that's why I kind of pushed it just like a couple percentages above on that. And then I always like having swirls around the eyes. Just I don't know.
It's so impressive. It's so impressive, and we've got your cover art here for a Jubilee cover. Again, such striking colors. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that one was a commission that I did recently. I don't know. People don't. I don't want to rag on anyone else's sketch covers, but people don't really push this idea. Like, you have a blank canvas. You can do whatever you want with these sketch covers when you make them. I'm currently working on an Ant-Man that looks like a Crate and Barrel ad. And I was like, well, why can't I remember looking at a Fantastic Four blank cover, and I was like, why can't I draw just flowers on it, like a bouquet still life on it, right, and just have a Fantastic Four? So with these sketch covers, I'm like, anything can really go, and just you can have a cover of a regular typical superhero, or I don't know, you can do anything you want with them.
You can go wild. Again, I could easily click through every single picture here and get you to just explain everything, but I won't do that, I promise you. But
that's fine.
There's so many striking ones here, especially Ghost Rider. And again, it's your own style. So like, how do you depict the fire around the skull? So you've got these almost like energy waves coming out, which is the fire, but you're mixing that with this mixed media technique of flowers within the fire as well. It's just so unique. And
I think that one I got influenced by another artist, the Ayakato. I saw her. She had one this beautiful like golden like woman, and just like turns into a bouquet. And I was like, I want to do something like that. And I was thinking, what character fits that? You could put in front of a black background and have a fiery bouquet around.
Yeah.
And Ghost Rider seemed like like the typical one
right?
I've always wanted to just wanted to tackle on that one.
Again, everything here is so colorful and so interesting. I love this Justice League one right here. The way in which you've arranged the composition of all of the key figures: Flash, Aquaman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman. And then you're wearing different techniques and different patterns. It's just so interesting, and no wonder you're selling them as prints, because I can easily see having a whole collection just on your wall for every single one that you produce.
Yeah, I love looking at like art.com and looking at those living room things or the interior decoration things. I've always been fascinated by like the look of those. I also love fashion photography. I know nothing about fashion, but photography of it. I mean, one of my other favorite artists is David LaChapelle, and he did he was one of those high fashion artists in the late 90s, early 2000s, was his big thing where he just did Rolling Stone covers, and they're these high saturated pieces that just are so surreal, but they're photographs.
Yeah.
So
it's absolutely incredible, man. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that Storm was one of my favorites. That one I also all my prints that I sell are foil prints.
Yeah, so that's another interesting way to. It's not just like digital art where it's just something that you see on the screen or it's printed out as a color inkjet print. The way you actually produce them have a tactile feel to how they are produced. Can you explain a little bit about that process?
Well, I have wonderful printers up in New York that do foil, and most people will. I mean, I always wondered why can't the foil be the medium? Like, what can you do around the foil? What colors could coexist with it? So sometimes I'll make my own art and I'll just put hollow foil on it, call it a day. But something like this, I was like, how can I play with silver and then blend it with that was my Storm piece. And you know, playing with the foil is a lot of fun because it's just an extra piece that you can build around instead of just making accents.
Yeah,
you could like force the issue with foil and really make it stand out. I also did it with like I said, half my prints have like a solid foil to it, and I really works well when I design around that solid idea.
Yeah,
like those little paisley these arabesques behind them. I have them in silver foil, so it really pushes things out.
yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. When you start to factor in other materials to create the artwork, is there anything that you've experimented with that, or that you want to experiment with other than foil, or an additive to the foil?
So I do drawings too. Like you see that Battle of the Planets girl that was commissioned. If you click on what was that, the pink girl up next to Deadpool?
Yeah.
That one is hand watercolored. But if you notice that planet in the background, I got really into marbling.
Okay.
Where I just took a bucket outside, put hose water and spray painted and mixed it in, but I taped the paper down. So I played around and got this cool marbling effect. I do a lot of wet on wet watercolors and, you know, do mixed media stuff. That because digital art, I'm able to produce like real quick. You know, you're a graphic designer. You can once you get on a roll with digital art, it's fast. Yeah. So sometimes I do hand stuff to slow myself down. So so I love experimenting with like materials. I see that like now they're making mirror paint and all types of really high iridescent paint that I work with.
One thing I wanted to ask you about as well, Sean, is so obviously the advent of like tablets and drawing directly onto the tablet and apps that can simulate water and oils. Do you like to experiment with that, or do you prefer the actual physical watercolor, the physical like paints?
Everything goes. Anything goes. Absolutely. With digital art, it's super free. Like anything can. I'll throw in clip art. I'll throw in my photographs. I'll draw from hand. I mean, whatever floats my boat. You know, like I'll do water. I'll do the marbling outside and scan it in and put it in there. And you know, same with the hand stuff, the hand drawn stuff, whatever I could use that I could meld together, I'll throw in there. I tried stuff with shaving cream, you know, played around with that. So I'll go on. We live in a world of YouTube that you know that teaches you that all these techniques, And like I said, I always throw in a superhero to ground everything. To because abstract's abstract, but when you see something recognizable, it really comes together. So
yeah, how hard was it to start taking recognizable superheroes or subjects and doing it in such a way that they had never really been presented in this way before, and hoping that the audience would accept the way in which you're depicting a particular character?
I mean, I guess it's easy because I think because it's not seen in a way, I had faith. I mean, I had faith in the process because people have, there's a lot of people. I don't ever want to disparage other artists but you go to a con, there's a lot of people who will draw like Todd McFarlane or draw Jim Lee and people have access to those artists themselves. So you have to really stand out to get people's attention. And just merely drawing the character, I don't think really grabbed my attention. I tend to go to once a year during the con seasons. I love going as a patron to indie comic book shows.
Yeah,
because you get an idea of what strikes you, what stops you, and also a lot of. I looked at a lot of interiors of like hotels or art.com or pictures of people's houses, and a lot of people want to put art up that is acceptable to bring company over.
Sure.
So that's where I get like the idea, like, when I make a lot of art, I think, can someone put this in their living room?
Yeah. So nothing with tentacles then. There's two Japanese.
Yeah. That's what, so I don't know. You want to. I don't want to say people are embarrassed to put their Jim Lees and stuff on the wall, but you want it to work well within a living room setting, and that's the
100%, man. Yeah, that's one of the things that because I was showing my wife some of this artwork as well, and she was super impressed because like that Spider Gwen one right in the middle there, or the Star Wars one here. Yes, they are. It's like nerd culture where it's the comic book stuff. You put it like massive on a big canvas in your living room, and then if people come over that are not in that world, they're thinking, "Oh my god, he's got like a ginormous poster of Star Wars on his wall." But it looks like such a piece of art that it's straddling those two worlds of it's a beautiful piece of artwork, but also it's depicting a really passionate community of popular culture that loves superheroes, that loves Star Wars. But I mean, look at the colors in this Death Star picture, and you've got the Death Star surrounded by lotus flowers, for Christ's sake. And but it works, right? It just works. Yeah. It is stunning.
Yeah, I mean, that one I just thought of. I had a picture of mine of a bouquet, and I don't know. These things just pop in your head after when you make art. Just things just pop in your head all the time. But yeah, I try to look at everything. I have the benefit also of being 15 miles away from the National Gallery, and I used to go there like once a month, just looking at art, just absorbing things as much as I could. And I'm near the Smithsonian, so I have Hirshhorn, these free museums, and I just always felt like if I wasn't going, I wasn't taking advantage of this like gift, like this thing that I have. And it's really incumbent that people should just keep looking at everything. The whole
Well, that's it. There's so much culture and historical things that we have on our doorstep that we have access to. It's not just going on social media, going on YouTube and scouring for that. You can actually get outside and go to museums and finding like different design influences everywhere. Yeah. Whether it be just looking at the buildings, at the architecture, or as we mentioned before, just looking at nature, formations in nature, like over winter, we were taking photographs of the way in which ice had frozen over water and then had begun to crack. So it creates these really interesting dynamic fracture lines within the ice. And then you're getting all these natural patterns and things appearing. And then you take that back and think, okay, how can I actually use that? Because everything is around us that is often beautiful and just there to influence us. And if as creative people we're open to that, then we can create something that excites us as creators, but hopefully can appeal to a layman person that would see that and then maybe be inspired as well to continue the process of creation across as many people as possible.
Exactly. Like there's so much out there, and people don't realize how much design is around them. Like you could look at a sign. It's weird. What really irks me? I'm going to like a city center and seeing a blurry sign as a storefront because you're like, oh man, they should have vectorized that. Like that kind of crosses my mind. But when you're a designer, you just naturally look at everything. Like you look at a bus. I mean, you could pick apart. If you're on playing with Photoshop or Illustrator or any other program, you pick apart the world, like because you just see things segmented off all the time. Mm-hmm. You pick apart everything in the world, and people are receptive to good design, and a lot of them just don't realize it. they like being in places because of how things are set up, or and art's just everywhere, and it's your local like coffee shop. You'll see people put stuff up that works with a whole interior, and you just want to be. I just want to be part of that.
100%, man, 100%. So when are you going to like produce a coffee table book that I can get my hands on? I can display it on my shelf, and I can sit in a restaurant or a Starbucks and just pour over this incredible artwork whilst I'm having my macchiato on a Sunday morning.
I don't know. I always keep wanting to do that, and then by the time I like have an idea of all this art setup, I always produce new art, and I'm just like, well, this is more representative of where I am now.
Sure. That's why you have volumes, though. You can have like sequels to your books, your collections. I will at some point. I've done that with sketch covers, and my sketch covers I used to like put them in, but man, Frank Lloyd Wright once said, I remember hearing something where he told his students to plant ivies on their first buildings because years later you want to cover it up because you're always evolving but that I probably at some point will put something out like that. I'd love to. I hope so. Your artwork is too incredible, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Sean, I've had an absolutely great time talking with you today. A massive thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you're in the East Coast of the States, so it's a little bit earlier over there. And I know you're a very busy chap as well, with all that artwork to create, and of course, your main job as well. Where can people get hold of this amazing collection of prints that you sell?
Well, I have a store NB shop, so it's skyscraper48.storenb.com. That's where I sell all my prints. And you can just follow me on all the social media. On Instagram, it's at skyscraper48 _art. But skyscraper48 is everything. I have a tumblr.tumblr.com, .facebook, at my Twitter handles right there. So just everything links to my stores. So that's where you can find me. Hopefully when cons come back in the future, I'll be seeing people there, and that's probably the best place to buy my
I hope
stuff
so.
at
I
these
hope so.
shows. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Great. Sean, again, thank you. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, to pick your brains over your artwork. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Weekend Catch-Up Club. If you have enjoyed this episode, then please give the channel a like and a follow. And until next time, I will be back next week with another great guest. Take care and see you later. Bye-bye.